In 1989 and 1985, when the decision was made to build this, they didn't know what we know now. Had they done so, they'd do it different.
New tonight at 6, a debate stirring in Southwest Washington over how to manage ongoing impacts from the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. This year marks 45 years since that cataclysmic eruption. The blast released 3.3 billion cubic yards of earth from the mountain. Mud and debris washed down 3 river systems, clogging waterways, stranding ships, and creating flooding problems in communities. To keep that from happening, over the decades to come, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers built a sediment retention structure on the Toutle River to help hold it back. It was designed for parts to be made taller if needed in the future. Now the Army Corps of Engineers says that time has come and construction is set to begin next summer. Some researchers, community members, and activists are calling on officials to take another look at the 40-year-old plan. Katu's Jesse Satin reports.
Did you take a radio with you?
For more than 40 years, Colin Thorne, a researcher with the University of Nottingham, has been studying the Toutle River.
So the river today is a different river to what it was prior to the eruption, and it's a different river to what it was immediately following the eruption.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' 1985 mandate for the sediment retention structure, or SRS, was planned out through 2035. Its design included the option to raise the height of the structure's spillway if needed, to trap more sediment behind it.
It was a brilliant idea to store and sequester sediments in a place that's safe, and it's kept people safe for 40 years.
The Army Corps of Engineers already raised the height of the spillway once, back in 2012. Another raise is planned to start next year, and a third is possible around 2035. Colin says over the past 40 years, understanding of the landscape's changing dynamics has advanced, and he's urging officials to take additional options under consideration.
And we have better solutions now, and we should be thinking about invoking them.
So I'm sure they're doing some testing and modifying.
Mark Smith has been living next to the Toutle River, a little over a mile upstream from the SRS, for 3 decades. He would like to see the planned spillway raise paused.
While we do have to look at sediment in the lower river and protecting the houses and cities below, we also have to remember we're also charged with protecting and establishing the natural habitat above it.
Mark explains that as sediment collects and water pools behind each spillway raise, it spills outward across the sediment plain behind it, making it bigger. This drowns and chokes out any vegetation in its path, something he says he saw happen after the 2012 raise. He fears that once the landscape becomes barren again, wildlife that has begun returning to the river, like beavers, elk, and otters, will also be pushed out. Mark also says it will make the water temperature rise, making the river behind the SRS too warm for fish released there to survive.
And the last thing I want is, at my age, is to see this happen, this area depleted again.
Mark and Colin are proposing a solution. It's something the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers already tried as part of a pilot program in 2010, which showed success. They installed a series of engineered log jam structures upriver from the SRS. Their job is to rough up the surface and slow the flow of the river, forcing sediment to settle out around them, eventually creating space for vegetation to grow. Mark says the vegetation is a key element of stabilizing the landscape.
It's now channelizing, it's stabilizing, and mainly because of the habitat that you see growing and, the vegetation.
Colin and Mark say if more of these are placed upriver, more sediment can be collected and build up grade or slope. They argue it's a longer-term solution than raising the spillway.
In terms of building grade, we can go on doing that for the rest of the century and store a huge amount of sediment that way.
He says the spillway crest raises and grade building structures can work hand in hand, but suggests another reason for pause. Mount St. Helens is still an active volcano with potential for future eruptive activity.
That's why, in some ways, I think it would be a good idea to hold back at least one spillway rise, so that if that was to happen, we'd have an answer immediately to keep people safe.
Jesse Satin, K2 News.
We're seeing erosion, we're seeing river migration, Goodness, we're seeing an old landfill that when you get to high enough river that people are picking up garbage from the 60s.
If you put a set of waders on, you could walk from the mouth of the Cowlitz to Castle Rock. There's that much sediment in that river, and we're having to deal with that.
Sediment moving downstream from the SRS directly impacts communities like Cowlitz County commissioners held a workshop to discuss all these issues, and they invited Colin Thorne, who we just heard from, to give a presentation on the log jam, the structures. They also heard from the director of the city's public works department. He told them that right now the capture rate of the SRS is only 16%, which means more sediment is going past it than getting trapped. He says it causes a number of issues, including clogging drinking water and wastewater systems. Deposits in the river are also diverting water flow, eroding banks, and raising the risk for flooding. He says downstream communities cannot afford this for the spillway raise not to happen, but also urges more long-term solutions.
Because of the situation that we're in, we don't have a whole lot of choice. We've got to raise our S so that we can have 10 years to do some of the other stuff. And we need to dredge. Those are both short-term. They're not permanent solutions. We've got to be able to do that so that we can have the opportunity to install maybe more of the log jams up above. And then long-term, as Dr. Thorne has pointed out, we need to capture that sediment up there as much as we can.
He noted that the Army Corps of Engineers can only do what Congress authorizes them to do, and encouraged officials to start thinking outside the box and expand the original plan that was authorized. The commissioners expressed interest in holding more workshops like this in the future.
It seems obvious that the agency that's going to make the decision is Congress, regardless of what anybody in this room says. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to bring people together so that we could speak out in one voice and advocate for the citizens of Cowlitz County.
We brought all these concerns to the Army Corps of Engineers. They tell us they already did one reevaluation report on the SRS plan in 2019. It examined multiple alternatives and ways to address risks downstream while maintaining protection levels.
So we did go in there and look at what could we do? How well were we doing it? Were we still able to do what we were asked to do? And the answer to that was all yes.
We asked the Corps about the impacts the spillway raise could have on vegetation, environment, and wildlife. They tell us the land was acquired by the state with the intent of storing sediment there. They acknowledge that current vegetation could be lost, but said they expect it to grow back naturally over the years to come. Then hope it will then provide more future habitat for wildlife. When it comes to fish from their trap and truck program, they plan to release them in the river's tributaries outside the sediment plain where water temperatures would not be impacted. The Corps says if the spillway raise does not go forward, they won't be able to maintain authorized levels of flood protection downstream. They told us adding more grade building structures like the log jams is part of their long-term plan. They are currently eyeing the late 2030s to begin that after the completion of the next two planned crest raises. So we asked why not sooner.
Really, it's a balance of the taxpayer money, and we have to balance that. We can, as it is, it's already a challenge to get the some of the things we've asked funded. It took us a couple years to get the crest raise funded. So that's why it's a staggered approach where the bill doesn't bite as bad, over the long term. And it doesn't. So it's the most cost-effective way to manage what we're doing now.
We then asked what it would take to get Congress to authorize a new study. The Corps says it would likely take something significant like a massive change in the system's hydrology, the sediment itself, or if risk conditions change. Even then, it's still a process.
If those mandates change, then our authorizations would change. But that doesn't necessarily equate to funding. So then after we get the authorizations, then we go back to Congress and we say, all right, we've done our studies and this is how much it's going to cost. And then that just goes into a queue for our work plan. And then Congress votes on whether or not to fund that project or not fund that project this year.
As we mentioned, the current plan under their mandate was set through 2035. The Army Corps of Engineers says they've been asked to request funds so they can do a study for the next 50 years after 2035. So far, no funding has been authorized for that.
2 weeks ago, we reached out to Senators Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray, as well as Representative Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, about whether they would be open to exploring a new study of the management plan. Congresswoman Gluesenkamp-Perez sent us a statement reading, "Communities downstream of Mount St. Helens are still dealing with the after effects of the eruption, and I've made it a priority Authority to center their perspectives and experiences as I look for legislative solutions to the challenges they face. I met with local leaders last month to discuss how to best protect their neighbors and communities, and their viewpoints will continue to guide my evaluation of potential steps that Congress can take. Senator Cantwell's team asked for additional time to send a statement citing the government shutdown. We did not hear back from Senator Murray's team.
If you'd like to learn more about the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, lasting impacts on nearby waterways, and solutions put in place, check out our past reporting on our YouTube page. You'll also find extended interviews. Use your phone's camera to scan the QR code on your screen, and it will take you right to that playlist.